This was Trump and Trump's armies invading the United States' heart of democracy. A dark day for the world's oldest, democracy, with Trump supporters going on an unbelievable rampage. Wait till you see these images if you haven't already. They laid siege to the Capitol Hill, where the US Congress was in the process of certifying Joe Biden's election as the 46th president of the United States of America. The mob scaled the walls of the Capitol, broke barricades, smashed glasses, and even entered the office of Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Unprecedented scenes that America or the world will never forget.
A ragtag revolt under a billionaire's branding. People power, ugly and unleashed. The marauding mob was unstoppable. Too much for brittle police ranks to hold the line.
Gas, gas, gas!
Medieval methods helped too. And those who didn't rush the doors in their attack on the home of American democracy treated it like a true home invasion. Breaking and entering, then rampaging through its hallways. This was their Occupy Washington moment. Dozens, some of them illegally armed, pushed deeper into hallowed chambers. The Capitol's own police, cowed by the invaders, were the last line of defence, and that line crumpled and collapsed too. Total disorder in the House.
They want us down.
Stunned politicians were now captive to the chaos.
We were just told that there has been tear gas in the rotunda, and we're being instructed to each of us get gas masks that are under our seats.
The point of their work, to certify the next US president, was quickly abandoned in a capitulation to the horde on their floor and in their seats. They eventually shut down, locked down and left.
Right now, I am sheltered in place in my office because we have protesters who have stormed the Capitol. Mr. President, you have got to stop this.
Unchallenged and free to roam, the iconoclasts made themselves at home, leaving a chilling note in the office of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. America's political leadership was in hiding. The president-elect, hundreds of kilometres away in Delaware, took it upon himself to lead.
It's chaos. It borders on sedition. And it must end now.
13 days ahead of assuming any actual power, Joe Biden pleaded with the current president to use his.
I call on President Trump to go on national television now to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege.
Eventually, Donald Trump did respond with a Twitter video message, but without any condemnation of those who'd rioted in his name.
This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special.
In time, authorities cleared the Capitol. And in retreat, the president's supporters lashed the news media. There was nothing fake about their menaces and nothing to diminish the carnage they wrought. One woman was shot dead in a confrontation with police.
A number of police and Secret Service were saying, get back, get down, get out of the way. She didn't heed the call, and as we kind of raced up to grab people and pull them back, they shot her in the neck.
Dozens were arrested by nightfall when security agencies retook the Capitol and flushed a short-lived insurgency well clear for blocks around it. This assault on democracy was brutal and bruising. Those who inflicted it have now, for the most part, melted away. But the stain they've left in Washington, D.C. may well be an enduring one. It has brought words of unity and healing by some within Congress, surely unheard and certainly not believed by the angry mob here today.
The Senate will come to order.
Among the many losses and the damage to be tallied, this is an almost tragic one.
We condemn the violence that took place here in the strongest possible terms.
A loyal Vice President in Mike Pence has been publicly spurned by Donald Trump simply because he wouldn't do the president's bidding and flip votes to him against the will of the people.
This mob was in good part President Trump's doing, incited by his words, his lies.
Now we're going to finish exactly what we started. The American people deserve nothing less.
The will of the people is the beacon in this seat of American power. It flickers still, but dimly tonight.
Moments after the United States Congress, which was under siege in those pictures, officially certified President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris's election victory amidst a pro-mob attack, a pro-Trump mob attack at the U.S. Capitol this morning. Donald Trump has finally conceded defeat. The outgoing president said that even though he disagrees with the outcome of the election, he said that there will be an orderly transition on the 20th of January when President-elect Biden becomes President of the United States. However, Trump added that he would continue fighting to ensure that only legal votes were counted in the 2020 November election. So now we're going to tell you what the transition is going to look like, because there are constitutional provisions to send Trump out kicking and screaming in case he doesn't cooperate. After the violence inside Capitol Hill left 4 people dead, clamours are growing louder, as you've probably heard, for Trump's impeachment, making him possibly the only president who would be impeached twice. There are also clamours to invoke the much talked about 25th Amendment of the US Constitution. So I want to tell you what that is. The clause was introduced in 1965 and ratified a couple of years later to determine rules on how the US President and Vice President might be succeeded or replaced. It determines the capacity of the President to hold office or lack of capacity. The Vice President becomes an acting President if the incumbent president is unable to function due to health reasons. The Vice President and the entire cabinet may call for the president's removal if they feel he or she is unable to discharge their duties. So that's what the 25th Amendment is. So impeachment or invoking the 25th Amendment are possible in the event of either another flare-up of the kind that was seen, or if Trump in some way tries to play more games. While Trump has said that there will be an orderly transition on the 20th of January, there is a call, like I said, for his impeachment again. There have been discussions already among some members of the Trump cabinet and allies of Trump about the 25th Amendment, which would be a vehicle to remove Trump from office. He would have no choice, legal or otherwise. Trump has said that he will continue his fight to ensure that only legal votes are counted. What happens to Trump? What happens to President Trump now, though? Take a look.
The lights were on at the White House, but a darkness had already descended on Washington in a day of high drama. Donald Trump could do little but watch as his Vice President, Mike Pence, condemned the actions of his boss's supporters.
To those who wreaked havoc in our capital today, you did not win. Violence never wins. Freedom wins.
The law and order president appeared to encourage his people, blaming his political opponents for the violence, tweeting that these are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away. It was the final straw for the social media platforms. Twitter banned him for 12 hours, Facebook for a day. And even for his strongest allies, it was too much.
All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough.
And for those Republicans who stood against him, today was the culmination of 4 years of division.
What happened here today was an insurrection incited by the President of the United States.
There are reports some in the President's cabinet have considered invoking the 25th Amendment, forcing the President out of office. They're only whispers, and it is unlikely to happen. But today's violence and the President's response will damage Donald Trump's legacy. From 3 former presidents with legacies of their own, there was unified condemnation. Barack Obama said today's violence was incited by the sitting president and called it a moment of great dishonour for our nation. Bill Clinton said the assault was fuelled by more than 4 years of poison, pitting Americans against one another. And former Republican President George Bush said he was appalled by the reckless behaviour of some political leaders since the election. In 14 days, Donald Trump will join those men as the latest former president when Joe Biden is inaugurated in front of the very building that was invaded today.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
It's tradition for previous presidents to attend the inauguration, just as they did in 2016. But Donald Trump said he won't be there. Instead, there are suggestions he'll launch his 2024 campaign at the same moment. Aides are now pleading with him to change his mind and show support for the democratic processes. Leaders around the world have expressed their deep concern and are also hoping for that smooth transition, with or without Donald Trump. It is, after all, supposed to be the bastion of democracy. Australia has upped its travel warning for the Washington area, with our Prime Minister describing the events as heartbreaking.
We hope for a peaceful and stable transition of government to the new administration elected by the American people.
With tens of millions of loyal followers, he has hinted he could run again in 4 years as a Republican or even spearheading his own party. In the interim, he may start his own media empire to promote the reality star turned president who has many more surprises ahead.
I want to go across to India Today's Geeta Mohan, our foreign affairs editor, who's, I'm sure, been up all night tracking this story, as have I. Geeta, what incredible scenes. You know, it's going to be difficult to digest them, but, you know, there's work to be done in the US. They don't have the luxury of sitting around, and figuring out what just went down at the Capitol Hill. There is a transition that needs to take place. We're talking about the possibility of the impeachment being invoked as well for Trump. That would make him the only president, perhaps, who's been impeached twice.
Or for that matter, Shiv, if the 25th Amendment is invoked, then he'd be the first living president to be ousted by the invoking of the 25th Amendment. So serious repercussions to what really happened, the sad turn of events that took place yesterday late evening and night when Capitol Hill was breached. Unprecedented, Shiv. But the fact of the matter is that, like you said, work needs to be done. 14 days to go. It is very clear that Joe Biden is going to be the next president of the United States of America. Although technically, I have to tell you, Shiv, that Trump has not conceded defeat. He's conceded to an orderly transition and is all. He is going to fight this and challenge it in court. He is going to take the legal route. So he is challenging the entire decision of the US Congress as also the results. And he is going to take a look at all avenues where he can maybe salvage his so-called completely broken pride. But the fact of the matter is that the violence is something that he will have absolute ramifications and repercussions to pay for, whether if it is investigations on how there was a lapse in security or, for that matter, incitement of violence by Donald Trump. Social media platforms banning him is not enough. There certainly could be investigations, and that certainly could mean a lot of trouble for the outgoing president.
Geeta, stay with me. You know, one image, and this is an image that most people have probably seen because these are the images that went viral on social media on a night that provided a surfeit of viral images that people are not going to forget. Take a look at the guy on your screen right now. This is an individual whose image dominated the US Capitol siege. He's a shirtless, tattooed protester wearing horns and fur, looking like some kind of Viking warrior. Let's tell you who he is, because you're probably wondering. He's a far-right protester. Well, no surprises there. His name is Jake Angeli. He's gone completely viral. He's an internet celebrity right now. That's him in that image. familiar face at pro-Trump demonstrations, because once people spotted him at this protest, images of him from earlier protests started doing the round. He's a small-time actor and a voice-over artist, supporter of popular conspiracy theories. Quanon claims Trump is fighting Satan-worshipping pedophiles. So he's that kind of a guy. He fills that kind of Trump fan space where people believe in all kinds of stuff. So that's who Jake Angeli is. Meanwhile, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube have blocked President Donald Trump as his supporters violently stormed the US Capitol. It was one of the biggest headlines. People had thought it might happen, but they didn't think the social media companies would actually bite the bullet. Trump was banned for a long time. Twitter has said that Trump's account will be locked for at least 12 hours, while Facebook imposed a 24-hour block of an incumbent US president. Let that sink in while you watch this report.
Chaos in the capital of United States. A pro-Trump mob laying siege to the supreme US seat of power for hours. And President Donald Trump fanning the flames of unrest online, leading to social media giants to firmly put their foot down. Twitter, in an unprecedented move, removed 3 of US President's tweets which incited violence and made baseless claims on electoral fraud. Before this, Twitter has flagged several tweets of Trump but had never removed them. Twitter also locked Trump's account for 12 hours and threatened permanent suspension. Facebook followed suit, blocking Trump's account for 24 hours, citing 2 policy violations. It also removed Trump's controversial video urging his supporters who stormed the Capitol to go home while claiming poll fraud.
This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace.
Facebook-owned Instagram also imposed a 24-hour ban on Trump. YouTube also removed a video by Trump from its platform. The outgoing US president, who could face impeachment, stands accused of using social media to stage an unofficial coup. Bureau Report, India Today.
Geeta, coming back to you, over the last few years, one has often wondered whether social media companies, will bite the bullet and put restrictions on Trump's social media handles. I mean, he is a social media president. He makes announcements, he fires people, but obviously he went a little too far during this violence at the Capitol Hill. And all of these 3, companies, Facebook, Twitter and others, and Instagram, suspended him. Big decision.
Well, that's true, and including YouTube, Shiv, all of them took down all the videos that in any way was inciting violence. Having said that, we know that the war between Twitter, Facebook and the Trump administration, particularly President Trump himself, has been a long one. It's been it's been on a couple of years. The sessions that the congressional hearings that took place in the recent past were rather harsh on Twitter and on Facebook. But having said that, this has to do with rules. The social media companies in the United States of America decided for themselves that this is an outgoing president inciting of violence, and the unprecedented way in which violence was witnessed in Washington, D.C. is something that is absolutely unacceptable. And yes, that's the reason why they've taken Trump down in terms of blocking him or reviewing his accounts. But it is going to be an important decision in how they're going to now look at not just reviewing and whether if he should be back on these platforms or not. Like you rightly said, he's been using these platforms for any and every important decision that he's taken in the past 4 years. And despite that, he's also blamed them for conspiracy against Trump. So it's very interesting, the love-hate relationship that the social media platforms and Trump have had in the past. But this is absolutely serious business. Incitement of violence, never seen before. 4 people having lost their lives, 1 because of gunshot, 3 because of medical emergency caused during that entire violence that ensued is certainly serious business, and Trump certainly could be in a lot of trouble. Shiv, before I end,
yes.
For all the memes that you were talking about, one meme with that man with the horn in the US Congress has stayed with me, where it says 2020 was a strange year, but this is only the 6th day of 2021.
Geeta, absolutely. I mean, I don't think any part of what we saw yesterday is going to be forgotten anytime soon, but the internet is going to preserve so much of how people expressed themselves last night. Truly history in the making. Geeta, thanks so much for that. Well, leaders around the world have obviously condemned the storming of the US Capitol by supporters of President Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. Prime Minister Modi tweeted saying he was distressed to see news about the rioting and violence in Washington. He added, orderly and peaceful transfer of power must continue. Former US President Barack Obama in a statement said that the violence was incited by Trump's lies on an unlawful election claim. While condemning the attack, the 43rd American president, George W. Bush, said he was appalled by the reckless behavior of some political leaders and the lack of respect shown for America's institutions and traditions. Bill and Hillary Clinton also took to Twitter and said that the attack on the US Capitol was fueled over 4 years of poisonous politics. The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson called the violence disgraceful and called for a peaceful and orderly transfer of power. Justin Trudeau, up north in Canada, added he is deeply disturbed and saddened by the attack on democracy in the US. And here, once again, encapsulating what was a night that will never be forgotten, the 10 most iconic viral images that dominated the siege of the US Capitol. Take a look at this. I'll see you on the other side of this break.
That's my understanding, and I haven't actually, I've viewed videos.
That will take quite some time. Why weren't force numbers tripled or quadrupled? Well, that debate can be.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.